of people's time.
Recording in progress.
We'll go ahead and get started. I will introduce myself. I'm the Laura Philpott, City Manager for the City of Maple Valley. And Chief, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah,
I'm
Tommy
Collins,
current chief of Maple Valley.
So also joining us, doesn't have her camera on, but Debbie Terry is our interim finance director, and she will be available to help us with any Q&A when we get to that point. So the goal of tonight is to share some information about the property tax levy that will be on the ballot on November 7th. Ballots should be dropping, I think later this week. It's Proposition 1. And this funding is dedicated to law enforcement. So that we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation. There is a Q&A feature on Zoom. Feel free to enter any questions you have along the way. And then when we get to the end, we'll do our best to answer those questions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started and turn it over to Chief to tell you a little bit about the Maple Valley Police Department.
I'm getting a little back. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. All right, great. All right, again, my name is Tommy Collins. I am the current chief of police for the city of Maple Valley. A little background on the city of Maple Valley's police department. So in 1997, when the city of Maple Valley decided to incorporate, become their own city, they decided to contract police services from the King County Sheriff's Office. Every officer that is assigned here to the city of Maple Valley is a King County deputy, and myself included. Our current makeup is 20 full-time employees. That includes, go ahead to the next slide, please. That includes myself, 2 sergeants. I have 1 administrative sergeant and 1 patrol operations sergeant. I've got 3 detectives, a traffic officer, an SRO, and 12 patrol deputies. So the way I break my staffing up is for patrol is we have 3 shifts. We have a day shift that runs from 6 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have a swing shift that starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, runs till midnight, and then we have a graveyard shift that comes in at 8 o'clock in the evening and works till 6 o'clock in the morning. What that allows me to do is to have what we like to call a 2-car minimum, which means there's at any given time in the city, there's at least 2 Maple Valley police officers that are on patrol in the city of Maple Valley. As you can probably tell, I overlap my shifts. That is a function to help with us having force enhancement for the city at certain times of the day. If everything goes perfect and there's no vacations, no sick leave, no training or special assignment, there are times where I have 4 to 6 officers inside the city limits. That's how we're able to provide that 2-officer minimum for the city with so few officers. And when you look at a city the size of Maple Valley, this population is roughly 30,000. It's grown a lot since I started out here at Precinct 3 in 1999. If you look at similar sized cities, they generally have about 40 officers for that size. If you look at the current statistics for law officers per 1,000 in the state of Washington, it's about 1.44 police officers per 1,000. Here in the city of Maple Valley, we're at about 0.67 officers per 1,000. So roughly about half of what the state average is. The reason we're able to do that is because of that partnership that we have with the King County Sheriff's Office. Next slide, please. So because of that partnership with King County, if for some reason I need extra bodies, if I need a helicopter, I can call King County. If I need a Marine unit for something that happens over at Lake Wilderness, I can call King County. If I need a major crimes detective, because we, heaven forbid, we have a major event such as a homicide or serious assault, I'm able to get a major crimes detective. Smaller cities generally don't have that type of resource to lean on. So that's one of that dynamic and that partnership that we have there with the county. In addition, Maple Valley is a very tight-knit community. They love their community events here in the city of Maple Valley, and my officers love attending those city events. This year, we're going to support 19 different events before the year's done. Some of the events you guys are very familiar with. It's Maple Valley Days. We do the Family Fourth of the Be the Hope Walk, the Lake Wilderness Triathlon, and of course the big event this year was the Ironman. The Ironman is a very labor-intensive event. It's a multi-jurisdictional event to where we have to reach out for assistance with not only the county, but our neighboring cities such as Black Diamond, Covington, Issaquah. State Patrol has helped with us. That event, just to give you an example of the labor for that event, it takes about 80 officers for us to pull that off for the bike race. So very labor intensive. Again, we love doing these public events. The city expects to have their police out and about in these events. And it's an expectation for when my officers first get assigned here that they are aware that we have these events and they're expected to participate. That's twofold. One is it gets them out in the community, so they get to know the citizens and they get to know the residents that come into the events, and they get to interact with their PD. And two, it gets the city gets to see their patch. They get to see their officers out at their events, participating and supporting the community. Next slide. So these are the numbers, and I will turn it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Chief. So we wanted to share the numbers. I think it's really important to understand where the funding that supports our current police department comes from. Our operations come from our general fund. There's a number of funds that the city of Maple Valley has. Many of them are very restricted. For example, we receive real estate excise tax, and that must be used on capital improvements. We also receive traffic impact fees when new development comes in, and those must be used on transportation improvement projects. General fund really is there to support our general operations, which includes law enforcement. It includes parks and recreation and road maintenance and a number of other general government services such as records retention, our clerk's office, and our community development staff as well. The general fund in 2023, we're expecting just shy of $18 million in revenues. And I just wanted to share a little bit of what that's comprised of. You can see on the screen. And I want to highlight that property taxes makes up about 4.6 million of that $17.9 million. You can see the rest is broken into there's sales tax, some other large licenses, permits, and development fees. This is for when people get their permits, they pay a fee associated with that, and that goes back into the general fund. And then there are some other intergovernmental revenues, such as the liquor tax and motor vehicle fuel tax comes in as well. So that comprises our general fund, which law enforcement is funded. So I wanted to share also, though, that you can see here, it shows what our general fund operations. The total amount is in 2023 is close to 20 million. And of that, 7.3 million is dedicated to public safety expenditures. And when I say public safety, it doesn't only include law enforcement. It also includes our prosecuting attorney, our judge, and our court system, jail. All of that is comprised of the public safety expenditures. And so you can see that it's a significant portion of our general fund operations. It's the yellow portion on the slide, and the orange is the remaining operations that occurs in the city. You can see the lion's share, and this is the projection from 23 to 28. of where we see those numbers growing. And then I want to look backwards a bit in 2000, all the way back to 2015. So the blue on this screen shows you what the King County Sheriff's Office contract. Chief Collins shared with us that we contract with the Sheriff's Office, which allows us to really keep our officer minimum below average, and also provides us with a lot of resources that we wouldn't normally have for a city our size. And the blue portion is that contract. The orange portion is the other items I talked about, such as our prosecuting attorney, our jail and court fees. So the orange portion is that. So as you can see, the blue has increased, and which is the contract. And I've included a percentage above the year to show how those numbers have increased year over year. And from 2015 to 16, we saw a more significant jump. An increase that we would anticipate is 3 to 5%. The increases where you see 8% and 9%, those are years that we have added officers. And Chief, if you want to speak a little bit about what we've added in the past.
Sure. So in those years, we added other patrols officers to get us up to that 2-person minimum. We added a traffic officer, and we added a 3rd detective. Right now in Southeast King County, the city of Maple Valley has the only fully staffed detective unit. I did that on purpose, mainly because after 2020, some of you may have heard that we had some challenges after 2020, and part of the challenges of most suburban cities is property crime. We put a significant emphasis on reducing property crime, and right now, because of those emphasis, currently we're down about 26% for property crime this year.
Thanks, Chief. You'll see in 2021 the number dropped negatively on the budget, and that's because of a lot of that has to do with COVID. We had most of our events were canceled, so we didn't have the law enforcement expenditures attached to those events. We also saw a significant numbers of law enforcement personnel retiring from the profession, and that was a national trend, so not something unique to King County or Maple Valley. And so we had some vacancies, so that's why you see the drop in expenditures in 21. And then you'll see in 22 we got back to more back to where we were prior to that that dip. And then from 22 to 23, you can see we jumped 19%. That's very significant. And that 19% was all attached to the King County Sheriff's Office contract. There were 3 reasons why that increase happened. One is, I think most people are aware of the cost of living increases, and which impacted our officers' salaries. So those went up. We also have a huge shift in how law enforcement is being sued nationwide for different activities. And while we haven't had a major incident in Maple Valley, we still are required to pay for liability insurance, and they need to they really look at national trends and what it's costing law enforcement for liability in order to carry that type of insurance, and it's gone up significantly. In addition, the King County Sheriff's Office has made a policy to add in body-worn cameras, and there are costs associated with that as well. So all of those kind of perfect storm added together increased our budget for the sheriff's contract by 19% from 22 to 23. So that was something that we weren't expecting, and we so we'll talk a little bit more about what that means for us. So I want to share operating revenues versus expenditures. So that again looked backwards. If we look forward, as we shared in the first slide about general fund, that we're receiving approximately just shy of $18 million expected in 2023. But our expenditures are actually like 20 million. So you can see that there's, we're outspending our revenues in 23 and anticipated in 24 and carrying that forward. If we continue, this is if we continue with the same level of service that we're providing our residents, is this is what it would look like. This is without adjustments to either revenues or expenditures. And what that really shows us is we have a very healthy reserve right now. We've had a very fiscally conservative council for many years, and they've built up our reserves. We are by policy required to keep 16.7% of our operating fund expenditures in a reserve fund. So that is the blue bar on the graph. That shows you what we're required by policy to keep in reserves in case there was something unexpected or catastrophic, that we could continue to maintain services for our community. In 23, you can see that our ending fund balance and our reserves is still quite healthy, even though we're using a good portion of that to pay for that increase in the sheriff's contract. In 24, we will, without any additional revenue, we'll continue to spend down those reserves. And then in 25, we'd go dangerously low. Again, without any changes, we would go dangerously low under our approved policy of 16.7%. And then in 26, 27, 28, we could not sustain, we legally cannot spend into the red. So this is, while it shows what would happen if we spent at the current rate and did not increase revenues, this is something that can't happen. But this is if there was no levy lid lift and no changes in the level of service that we're providing the community. So what would be needed to maintain the current level of service that we're providing to the community? We estimate it would be about $2.2 million per year of new revenue dedicated to public safety. So the city council looked at a number of different potential funding sources to say, how could we bridge that gap? There is been a lot of questions from the community of why we didn't go with propose a sales tax for voters to consider. And a sales tax, we are limited by state law. We would only be allowed to ask voters to raise sales tax 0.1% for public safety. And that would raise approximately $450,000 per year, which is not enough to sustain our current level of service for law enforcement. So our city council decided that they wanted to go out to the voters and give the community the opportunity to say whether or not they would like to continue to fund and keep our law enforcement at its current level. And the ask is whether or not you would like to increase the property tax. Right now, state law restricts local governments like Maple Valley. We're only allowed to increase our property tax by 1% each year, our property tax collection. And so the blue on this graph represents what our property tax rates would be based on that 1% growth. And the green represents the bump if the levy lid lift was approved. And then going forward, there would be a 1% increase. We would be back to that restriction on top of what that one-time bump would be. So there's also the first question that I often hear is, what is the cost per residential property? So this table shows what those costs would be. There is the first column is projected 2024 property tax with no levy lid lift. So this assumes a 1% increase that is allowed by state law. And then it shows what with the levy lid lift would increase to. So currently we're anticipating in 2024 the median valued home to be approximately $561,700, and this is per the assessor's office, and projected what the property taxes that would be paid to the city of Maple Valley in 2024 would be $453 per year without the levy lid lift. With the levy lid lift, it would increase to $665, a difference of $212. So you can look at the table to see assessed value 800, 1 million, 1.2 million. And the King County Elections Office is working on a calculator that will be available soon, where you can actually put in your property and you can see the exact amount that would you would be impacted if this levy lid lift were to pass. I want to highlight that qualifying seniors and disabled residents are exempt from the increase. So what this means is King County Assessor's Office has a program where low-income seniors and disabled residents are able to apply for a property tax reduction. If you qualify for that reduction, you would not see any of that increase from the levy lid lift. You would be exempt from that increase. That was very important to our city council to make sure that those residents were protected. This chart here comes directly from the King County Assessor's website. This is actually my property. It's just an illustration of where property taxes are going. You can go on and see for yourself for your specific property where your 2023 taxes are going right now. You can see that 7.2% of property taxes are coming to the city. So the lion's share are going to schools and other areas. So it's just very important to understand where those dollars are going. So that's the lion's share of our presentation tonight. But the biggest ask we have for folks is that you please vote. It is not our place to tell you whether or not to vote. We're trying to share facts about what our police department is and why the city council has elected to put this on the ballot for your consideration. And we really, our big ask is that you do vote, regardless of which way that you vote. That's our ask. And with that, we would love to answer questions. So let me check the Q&A. So the question is, Washington citizens have had to shoulder inflation costs ranging from 6 to 9%. In addition, Washington now has the highest fuel costs in the nation. A full 62% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and 52% do not have enough savings to cover a $1,000 emergency. As such, families have made significant reductions in order to cover costs of living. Now, we're in the presentation, did I see consideration to cutting costs in the police department? With that consideration, how do you justify additional tax burdens on the citizens? I think that that's what we're asking the citizens to make that decision. And I understand that 6 to 9% for residents, how difficult that is. We also understand that that same increase is happening to all of the services that we contract with and that we're providing. So if the voters choose not to pass this, which is definitely a possibility, that would be something that our city council would really need to sit down and decide what to cut. They felt very strongly that cutting and going below the 2 officer minimum was not something they wanted to do unilaterally without having an opportunity to hear from the voters. So hopefully that answers the question. Are there any other questions? Chief, in a few of the other presentations that we've given over the last couple of weeks, we do hear a lot of questions about how to report crime and other issues. Maybe this is a good reminder you could share with the audience.
Sure. I know there's generally what I hear is, I will hear anecdotal stories of people seeing things within their neighborhood or out and about in town, and they have this feeling that it's not right, but they feel that the calling 911 is not the appropriate answer. My ask is that if you do see something in town that you believe the police need attention to, please call 911. Policing is a stat-driven profession. We run about 4,000 calls of service a year. That doesn't include the on-view activity. So what on-view activity is for my officers is the activity that they do in their free time between 911 calls. So just for 911 calls, we run about 4,000 calls a year. Please call, because if we're not aware of the issue, then it's really hard for me to direct resources towards them. So if you see something and you think it's not right, don't think you're bothering us, you're not, that's what we get paid for, please give us a call, call 911. And if it's a non-emergency, just tell them, hey, this is a non-emergency, and the dispatcher will transfer you over to a non-emergency call receiver.
Thank you, Chief. So the Q&A is right in, and it is open for more questions. I don't see any additional questions. But I do want to share that if you, after you've watched this and sat through, and if you think of additional questions, please feel free to reach out to myself. I can be reached at City Hall, 425-413-8800. I will actually stop sharing. And I also can be reached via email. Happy to have more conversations and answer any questions people have. We also have a website that has information. You can go through the city's website and read information on there as well. There's also a copy of this PowerPoint, and this is being recorded tonight, so we will also provide that on our website, as a link on the website, as well as through social media if you'd like to watch it again. So I guess I'll wait just another minute to see if we have additional questions. If not, I just want to thank everybody for spending your evening with us, learning a little bit more about Proposition 1 and the Levy Lid Lift on the ballot. Chief, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I just want to thank everybody who came in tonight. It's been their time with us to learn about their police department and the issues that are going on in their community. It's very much appreciated. Oh,
and then also Chief and I will both be at the farmers market this Saturday from 9 to 2, and on Saturday, October 28th from 9 to 2 as well. We'll be in a booth and available for one-on-one conversations if you wanted to stop by and learn more or have more conversation. So with that, thank you all very much for attending.
Hope everyone has a good night.
Okay, thank you.